lot of media interest because the very nature of the relationship is such, and I think we'll deal with it. But I do want to say it will be for a multilateral event. I mean, I'm not going there to discuss India-Pakistan relations. I'm going there to be a good member of the SCO, but since I'm a courteous and civil person, I will behave myself accordingly. So, on the women-led governance, look, I think we also have our own experiences. Yes, I am scheduled to go to Pakistan in the middle of this month, and that is for a meeting of the SCO, SCO heads of government. Normally, Prime Minister goes to the higher level meeting, the heads of state, and one of us, it changes. Usually, one of the ministers goes for the heads of government meeting. So that's in line with the tradition. It so happens that the meeting is taking place in Pakistan because, like us, they are a relatively recent member. So your question, I think, as I understood it, was, am I planning for it? Of course I'm planning for it. I mean, in my business, you plan for everything which you're going to do and for a lot of things which you're not going to do and which could happen also. I mean, you plan for that as well. Expect there would be a lot of media interest because the very nature of the relationship is such, and I think we'll deal with it. But I do want to say it will be for a multilateral event. I mean, I'm not going there to discuss India-Pakistan relations. I'm going there to be a good member of the SCO, but since I'm a courteous and civil person, I will behave myself accordingly. So, on the women-led governance, look, I think we also have our own experiences, and so do other societies. When I look, a lot of people in the room, their career has been dealing with administration, with development, with society very deeply. Mine was mostly dealing with foreign policy, but in the last 5 years, 5.5 years as a member of parliament, obviously I see very much more of you can say in a way the grassroots. And my own sense is that when there are a lot of things we can learn. There are a lot of things where we ourselves are an example. And certainly in the case of women-led development, in fact in the G20, we were the people who really pushed this idea that, this is not just about closing gender gaps, because that's almost like women will continuously stay behind and you're going to play catch up and, that's where it ends. I mean, there are many areas where, after all, in many ways, they are a natural pivot of families. And there are areas where their contribution and their role is very different, and it's not something which is replaceable by men. So I do think it's a very active subject to engage the world. But other than that, part of what I would say we are trying to do in foreign policy is foreign policy. Many countries have used foreign policy in a very focused manner to get the best things out of the world. I mean, it could be investment, it could be trade, it could be technology, but a lot of it is about best practices. How does some other country do this better or different, or in some manner is there something we can learn? And I think that's an attitude I would say we should encourage, and certainly through foreign policy we are trying to do that. On the integration issue, at the moment, SAARC is not moving forward. We have not had a meeting of SAARC for a very simple reason, that there is one member of SAARC who is practicing cross-border terrorism at least against one more member of SAARC, maybe more. Now, when if you're all sitting together and cooperating, and at the same time, this kind of terrorism goes on so openly, it actually poses a challenge for us. That do you ignore it and go ahead, and in which case you are normalizing it, you are accepting that this is a legitimate tool of statecraft. And I think at some point we came to the decision that we should not do this. That terrorism is something which is unacceptable, and if despite a global view of it, if one of our neighbors continues to do it, then there must be a cost to them. It cannot be business as usual in the SAARC. And that is the reason why actually SAARC meetings have not happened in recent years. But I want to make an equally important point. Because SAARC has not happened doesn't mean regional activities have stopped. In fact, I would argue that the last 5 or 6 years, we have seen far more regional integration in the Indian subcontinent than we have seen since the partition of India. That if you look today with Bangladesh, with Nepal, with Bhutan, with Myanmar, with Sri Lanka, where I came, you have railway lines being restored, you have roads being rebuilt, you have electricity grids being built, countries export and import power, you have fuel lines. Our refineries today give fuel to Nepal and to Bangladesh. You have ferries, you have, fertilizer supplies. So, and if you look, medical visas, the way our hospitals are linked. So, I actually would say that what is happening in the neighborhood, and it's happening because we are espousing this policy called neighborhood first. Neighborhood first means we are the biggest country. We must put in the maximum resources. We should not look to say, are they doing something equal to us? Because they are smaller. They will not be in a position to necessarily reciprocate. So we need to take that as our primary responsibility and push that. I didn't entirely understand the second part of your question, but if I got it right, you are saying that sometimes people say things which are awkward. And how do you deal with that? That's how I understood it. So if I understood it right, I mean, in democratic politics or, in politics, many things are said. I mean, in diplomacy, all things are handled.